Skype, written by Stephen Shorter. I'm sure you've heard of Skype. It's a free instant messaging program, allowing voice and webcam chat with people the world over. I've been using it to keep track of my old friends. We all went off to college a fortnight ago. Last week I was talking to Annie, the girl I used to go to school with. We'd both just moved into our flats. We were both single, and the first semester hadn't yet begun, so we found ourselves with plenty of time to chat. Usually we'd Skype at least once a day. The stuff we talked about isn't hugely interesting. She had bought new headphones. I'd watched The Princess Bride for the first time. It was just nice to have some familiar company amidst a time of such great upheaval, you know? Anyway, it was a Tuesday morning. I'd been out clubbing the previous night and was pretty groggy and hungover, but I was awoken by the plaintive buzzing of a Skype call. Cursing the fact that I left my laptop on and massaging my temples, I stumbled out of bed.
Hello?
My bleary eyes struggled to focus on the painfully bright monitor before me. Annie was, of course, dressed, made up and grinning, sporting her new headphones. She gave me a cheery wave, to which I responded with a half smile. "Well, aren't you the life of the party this morning?" she teased.
You should have seen me last night. My dance moves put the whole club to shame.
Big fish, little fish doesn't impress anyone. Hey, don't you have an introduction meeting with your tutor today? I glanced at my calendar, but the ink refused to stop squirming on the page. I assumed she was right, but even the small amount of sunlight that seeped into my gloomy domain under the curtain was eye-watering.
Yeah, fuck that,
I groaned.
What about you? What are you doing today?
Hoping to get a call from Erin. She just took off yesterday during a fire drill. She left a letter on her desk saying that she was going home.
Which one's Erin again?
I asked, half serious. You know how it is. Your friends talk about so many people that they just blur together after a while. Annie made an unimpressed face. My flatmate. She lives across the corridor from me. She just vanished. I mean, it's only been a day, but we were thinking about calling her parents just to check up on her.
I shrugged. Do it. Better safe than sorry, huh?
Before she could reply, there came a sudden shrieking of an alarm. Annie said something which was drowned out by the noise, and I covered my ears, wincing.
What did you say?
I asked. She had to shout directly into her microphone. I said, it's the fire alarm. I better go outside or the warden will have a fit and make us do it all again.
What time should I call back?
I asked, raising my voice as much as my pounding headache would allow. Don't worry, I'll only be on for like 5 minutes. Just leave Skype on. With that, she was gone, pulling the headphones off and placing them on the keyboard. After a few minutes, the alarm cut out. Then the door opened. It wasn't Annie, though. It was wearing a blue, paint-stained boiler suit, and a beanie-style hat, and a mask made from the bleached skull of some kind of goat or sheep. My eyes were drawn to its hand, however, a rubber glove wrapped around a hook, the kind you see behind the counter in a butcher shop. For a few seconds, I just sat there, numbly wondering if this was Annie playing a creepy joke on me. Then I snapped into action.
What the fuck do you think you're doing?
I yelled.
Who are you?
There was no response from the figure. It couldn't hear me. The headphones were still plugged into Annie's laptop. Instead, it simply stood there, taking in the room. 10 seconds later, it began to approach the desk. I fumbled for my phone. I had to warn Annie. I selected her number from the speed dial, not taking my eyes off the figure on screen. It was peering intently into the camera, eyes glittering behind empty sockets. Dialing tone. Click. Ringing. The masked figure froze. Then slowly and deliberately, it reached its free hand off camera. I squinted against the pixelated image. Then my heart sank. It was holding Annie's phone. She left it on her desk. The figure cocked its head to one side, throwing me what I presume was proposed to be a pitying look, before I hit the off button on the mobile and placed it beside her laptop. It reached into its pocket, produced something white, and dropped it atop her keyboard. I only saw it for a second, but it looked like an envelope. It wandered across to her wardrobe, opened the door and climbed inside, stooping to fit. It hesitated as it did so, and turned to look directly at the webcam. The light caught its teeth, as though it were flashing me a cruel grin. Then it pulled the wardrobe shut. I glanced down at my phone. I had to call the police. There was no question of that, but even as I dialed the first 9, I realized the futility of the gesture. There would be the bother of them finding and contacting the department in Annie City, 50 miles away. I called anyway. Dialing tone. Click. Ringing. You're through to the emergency services. Which service do you require? Yeah, I need I paused mid-sentence. I had paused because the door had opened and Annie had hurried inside. Her hair was wet from the rain, and she smiled as she approached the webcam. I yelled as loud as I could for her to run, and felt the tears pinching in the corners of my eyes. Annie didn't hear me. She sat down, picked up the headphones and began to adjust the strap length. Over her shoulder, the wardrobe stirred. "Hello, sir. Which service do you require?" "Sir? Sir, are you hurt? Do you need an ambulance? Are you still there? Sir?" I'm sitting here scratching my head as to what the intended outcome was supposed to have been.
Alright guys, I am an idiot because I had to go on the wiki and see what that ending meant. I won't spoil it for you guys, so just go back and think about it if you don't get it like I did. So it's pretty cool. I was confused because all the tension was built up and then it was just lost on me. I didn't know what had happened. As a side note, I do vet these guys, but I don't really read too much into them. I just make sure grammar is okay, sentence structure and all that is something that I'll be able to, read to you guys. So I go into these a lot of the times not knowing the endings. So anyway.
La Madre de Muerte. Local 2Com. In 1716, an outcry of parents soared throughout the Kingdom of Spain. They complained that their children wouldn't listen to them and they wouldn't stop crying and screaming. After endless months of begging that the king to do something to help punish the children, King Charles III had a solution. He sent an unnamed woman in a black nightgown with long red hair to the doorsteps of family houses. She would knock at the door, and those who answered were greeted by her. Her bulging eyes and seemingly forced smile stared through the neglectful parents. She would murmur, "Están llorando los niños?" Or, "Are the children crying?" in English. To those who said yes, she would walk past the parent and look for the source of the screaming, usually from a child. She would grab a blade and slit the children's mouth into a smile. The screams became muffled, and they couldn't speak anymore. Horrified parents would curse the woman, who then would say, "Si bueno," and would tell them that they got their wish, and then she would leave. This would later be dubbed as La Madre de Muerte, or the Mother of Death. 2 months later, the woman was executed by hanging, but the damage was done. The weeks would be known in infamy and misery. The parents would cry over the tombs of their children who passed a few weeks later due to breathing issues. The following are letters translated to English, which discuss the woman. "What have I done? I invited this woman into our home and let her take my children away to hell with her. I will never be able to forgive myself for begging her to come and take away my love and happiness. I don't deserve happiness. Instead of taking responsibility for my child, I let her do the punishing. She punished my children and me in the process." Another shorty for you guys. I liked it. I'm playing the RE4 remake right now. I legit just stopped playing it and I came in to record. And I'm just picturing one of the ganados going around just slicing up kids' faces. So that's funny. Yeah, hope you enjoyed that.
Well, thanks for sticking around if indeed you are still here. Make sure you're subscribed. Stay tuned for more. I'll see you in the next one.